Greetings, everybody. Brandon King here. And you can see I have Taylor Hunter in the room with me for our inaugural Quills of Kin. Kind of hard to say fast, but kind of fun to say nevertheless. And if you don't know yet, what does Quills of Kin mean? Well, I'll break it down for you. How about that? Starting with quills. Quills means, kind of the writing implement in the bygone era of a feather, and you would dip it in a quill. And then later, it was like actually a metal quill with a cool handle, which I used to have as a kid, and I don't anymore. I don't think. No, I do upstairs. But at any rate, quills is what a writer would use to write. And so Quills is part of our webinar name because we are both writers. We both write fantasy, what some would call epic adventure fantasy. And both of us do that. We're both award-winning fantasy authors. So that brings us to kin, K-I-N. Well, what does that stand for? Family members. So I would be the dad, and Taylor would be the daughter. So now you understand
the daughter
of kin. And we're here just to share some things that we think about, care about, write about. And we actually have a little bit of, I wouldn't call it an agenda, but a guide. Let's call it a guide. We're going to call it a guide. And it's a very, very simple slide deck, if you will, that will be our guide. It'll be our path. And here it is, Quills of Kin. So now you can see it officially, and you already saw it when you registered for this webinar and our webinars in the future, which we hope to have, and that this won't be the only one, but we'll see, kind of based on the response.
Yep.
But here we are, Quills of Kin, Brandon King with Taylor Hunter. Those are our pen names, and Taylor doesn't really know what's coming next because I came up with this, and I'm just going to toss her into it. So, welcome. And I tried to do that already, but I'll let Taylor give you a welcome too.
Welcome.
Very good.
We're glad
so welcome by both of us. So what we want to talk about today is pretty simple. It's a little bit about our backgrounds, stuff that matters to us, why we're doing this. And I don't really define this on that slide, do I? So this could actually be, why are we doing this webinar? Why are we doing a series of webinars called Quills of Kin? We hope it's a series of them. And then we'll have a little Q&A if our attendees have any questions to ask that we would then answer, which is what a Q&A is about. And we went ahead and kind of set this up to make it a more friendly experience on our inaugural event because the two attendees are our respective spouses. So hopefully it'll be a kind and friendly experience. With that in mind, we'll go to the next slide. So a little bit about our backgrounds. Here is Taylor Hunter, photograph from a few years ago. And Taylor, take it away. Give our audience a little bit of background.
Okay. This picture is like you mentioned several years ago. That's because I first got my idea for my first book when I was in high school, and that is when I wrote it. And it was a way that helped me stay sane while surviving classes, and it turned out to be a source of great joy and fun to do as well. The tricky thing was that there was not a lot of resources available for teenagers. The self-publishing industry was only just kind of starting to form at that point. Most of the time you would get traditionally published, and you would usually have to kind of already be a thing to get traditionally published. Brandon King, my dad, ended up supporting me as he was going on his own author journey, finding all these resources. He helped me get what I needed to finish my book. Published it when I was 17, and several awards from local book award events. And that's kind of how I got started.
That's great. Thank you, Taylor. And she's actually an award-winning author on both of her books. Her first novel, published at 17, and then her second one, published some years later. So you want to talk a little bit about your books, the two books?
Yeah, sure. My first book is called Never Seen. And it's the first book in my series called The Phelan Legends. And the reason I started writing my series was because when I was younger, I grew up reading, things like the Spiderwick Chronicles, and I liked the Disney Fairies books that were out at the time. But the thing was, like, when I hit junior high, it's like, oh, everything just became super edgy and dark, and there was just an abundance of twinkly vampires and gross zombies, none of which I wanted to read. So I decided, okay, well, if there's no fairy books for this age range that I want to read, I guess I'll just take care of it myself. So that's why I wrote Never Seen. Got it published when I was still in high school. And then the reason it took several years to get the second book out was not because I didn't start it right away. I actually started working on it like right after I finished the first book. But publishing is a process. Getting it noticed is quite a process. And then there was also this small thing called university that, took over my life for years. And I would carve out time on occasion to get some scenes written and keep brainstorming what direction do I want this series to go. Because I wanted it to tell one overarching story ultimately. And then, eventually I did get Flame Rider, the sequel, published a couple years ago, but that's why there was such delay, was because college, and then, getting into the workforce, because I went to college for an engineering degree, not an English degree, and got into engineering. And then, 2020 happened. So everything was inverted for everybody for a very long time. But Flame Rider got published a couple years ago, and I'm hoping to get my third book done this year.
That's great. Thank you. And then, if you don't know my story, you heard some of it there through Taylor. I had what I call a downtown job in the 2000s, towards the end of them, in that first decade, and it was profoundly stressful, and I really needed something to just kind of blow off some steam. And I'd had an idea back when I was a young man, because I had grown up on C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Chronicles of Narnia, those storylines, and had loved them. And I read a lot of other fantasy, and especially a lot of sci-fi back in the day. And so I ended up just one Saturday, out of kind of a desperation for my nervous system, I thought, I'm going to start writing something because it would be so entirely different than the stress I was dealing with downtown. And so I did. I had this idea from way back when, and I thought, I'm just going to try to run with this. I had no idea what I was doing, where I was going to go. I just sat down in front of a computer, brought up a Word doc. I don't even think I had a title to the chapter. I just started typing. And but I was typing with a reader in mind, one reader, and that would be my guest today, Taylor Hunter. And I just wanted to write something that wasn't about twinkly vampires or slimy zombies where arms and faces are falling off and stuff like that. And so I wrote this chapter and came out of my office and said, so, honey, you want to read this thing? And she went into my office and read it, and then came out levitating and throwing her arms around. And It took me a while to realize she was actually excited, and that those were good signs. They were coming from her. She wanted a yak, and like, what have you done? So it was very encouraging, and so I ended up writing another chapter and got the same response. And over a period of months, ended up coming up with a book, and then put it in front of a local book editor who I'd met at a local writers conference, and gave her a manuscript, and she read it and came back and said, "I think you have something here." So she edited it, got it published. It won some awards. So that's a little short background for both of us. If we continue doing this, and we do plan on continuing to do this, so we have more webinars in the future, we'll probably talk more about this, because there's a lot more to share with you. Why do we write particularly the kind of fantasy storylines that we do? Why are they different? Because Taylor's is more, the tagline that I came up with for her is not your mother's Tinkerbell, because yes, it's about fairies, but it's not about anything remotely like Tinkerbell. It is really more like Tinkerbell goes to Avatar, which is another tagline that we have. So very, very cool and kind of steampunky, and it's a really gnarly storyline. So I encourage you to check it out, which you can do anytime, of course. And then for me, I just sort of randomly came up with, why don't I write about gargoyles? Because I knew there had been this animated storyline about it, and Taylor's husband knows about that and was a huge fan of that thing. I never actually watched it, so I didn't really have any gargoyle storylines to riff off of. So I just came up with my own. And so we write fantasy, but it's not the same kind of storyline, and different kind of things are going on. But in some respects, in no huge surprise, because we're related to each other, I think there are some common threads, what you might call red threads, that go through both the storylines, which are quite different, but still have some common kinds of themes. And those are the things that you will probably hear us talking about in the future. Maybe like hunker down on one theme and talk about it at length. We don't know. We're just kind of going along for the ride here too. But as our audience kind of informs us of what kind of questions they have or what they'd like us to talk about, then we're happy to do that, because we really want this to be audience focused. So we're kind of helping you understand what are we doing and why are we doing it. So why don't we take a look at the next slide? I already kind of told you a little bit about me. There we go. There I am. See, I could turn my head around the other way, then it looks kind of like there. Now I look sort of like the picture, sort of that, but okay, that hurt. That was hitting the table, and ouch.
Oh.
So you already know we're related. So we're not really going along pacing very well with the slides. We'll try to do better next time on that. And we've already told you a little bit about the stuff that matters to us. Is there anything you want to add, Taylor, about the stuff that matters to you as a writer or current events or what have you?
Well, I think we've talked about, like you alluded to, you were inspired by Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and so was I, and I think we could definitely expand on that quite a lot in the future. But another thing is that I know we're both inspired as well, like by certain movies and TV shows. Especially themes and particularly well-written characters, that tends to get our attention pretty good. Story building that happens in those. So, I figure, maybe if this thing really gets some traction, maybe we'd like kind of do a bit of a topical focus on maybe it's a particular movie series and like what we appreciated about it, and you know, some of the similarities and differences and stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Like that idea. That sounds good. I did actually have enough slides. I'm just kind of remembering what slides I came up with several days ago when I was going through a pretty severe technical wormhole with this software, which is really pretty cool when it works right, but it's not as intuitive as I particularly would benefit from. So, but kind of circling back to what you were just talking about, this is totally accidental, but kind of cool. Movies and book series that we love and really enjoy. We tend to really fall in love with characters, I think, first. And it's really,
yes,
we write what we would, at least we would argue, we write stories that are very character driven. So we want our readers to fall in love with our characters. Maybe not all of them, because we have a lot of characters. We do populate our storylines with many, many, many characters. And so anyway, just so you know, if you're just kind of meeting us in a video environment from a webinar and don't know anything about our stories, character-driven stories with quite a few characters. And chances are you're not going to fall in love with every one of them unless you have a very high tolerance for loving a lot of characters. But we do hope you fall in love with our protagonist, certainly. We don't really want you to fall in love with our antagonist, because they're supposed to be the kind of character where you love to hate them or hate to love them. Your choice. But anyway, characters drive our stories. And then in my next slide is world building. And we do spend a fair bit of time developing our worlds. And I think it'd be fair to say my world, I have to work at it some with world building, but a lot of my storyline actually happens in our world. And I have some timeline. I play with timelines a little bit. Just a tiny bit of a reveal there for people that maybe aren't familiar with my story. But I do have some timeline stuff going on. Whereas Taylor's world sort of, well, I'll let you explain it.
Okay. My world, which, you know, maybe it's kind of alluded to in the title of my series, which is the Feyland Legends. Fey is another word for fairy, so it's you know, a way of saying fairyland. It's just I didn't want that to sound potentially childish, so I said Feyland. It's very gnarly. It sounds very cool, and like as far as my approach to Feyland, it is a separate world. But even in my first book, it's clear that somehow or another they're aware of humans. So it's a separate world, but it's not isolated exactly. There's at least an awareness, even if they're not interacting with humans on a regular basis. And I plan to actually expand on that quite a lot in my third book. Start giving some answers, but it's the kind of answers that makes you realize you have more questions at the end of the day because of that.
Yeah, cool. That's great. And again, for those of you that don't know much about us, or maybe anything about us, both of us have 2 published books. There is some span of time between the 2, because as self-published authors, you really do have to work around your day-to-day life. And when you are not a full-time writer, because you have a day job, it makes it very difficult to crank out books with any regularity. However, having said that, we have both been writing in our series with focused determination whenever we can. So both of us have a 7-book story arc in mind. And both of us have written extensively in all 5 remaining books. Both of us essentially have book 3 ready to go, or almost ready to go. In my case, almost ready to go. In Taylor's case, essentially ready to go. In terms of the story itself, now it's about all the extra hoop jumping that has to happen to self-publish a book, like cover design, interior editing, kind of mapping out a launch sequence. There's just, if you don't know, you don't know how arduous the process is. So support your local self-published author or your not local self-published author, because it's a lot of work to do. But anyway, just, we are both aiming to come out with book 3 this year. And I don't know if you've noticed yet, but behind me over my shoulder, I have 2 of my many, many gargoyles, which were gifted to me by Taylor. So thank you, Taylor, for the wee little friends that I've been hanging over my shoulder. So anyway, world building is very important to us. So anyway, we'll end up talking about that more in the future as well. Story arc, you've heard us alluding to that quite a bit. Both of us, it's very important to us, and probably more so now, even this week. And I'm going to talk about something specifically that I just learned about yesterday, of all things. When it comes to story arc, we really work hard at making sure that we have authenticity and credibility so that our characters are believable, the world is believable in which those characters do what they do, and that it feels real. So we try to make it very easy for readers to kind of feel like you're in the world in which you're reading, so that you can kind of touch it and feel it. And the reason this is important to me, more so than when I actually created this slide for today's webinar, is because yesterday I was reading yet another thing about AI, artificial intelligence. Unless you're living under a rock, you are probably being bombarded with stuff every day, regardless of your age or what you do for a living, whether you're a student full-time in middle school, high school, university, or you're working a day job that you've been doing for the past 35 years or anything in between. You probably know a lot about AI, at least that it's a thing. But what I learned yesterday from one of the people in the self-published writer world, who's somebody that we use some of his products for what we do in getting our books out to our readers. His name is Dave Chesson, and he put out a newsletter yesterday that said, hey, by the way, if you didn't know, without any forewarning, Amazon just decided to release into Kindle, without telling any author at all, it's now created this thing called, it's essentially an app that lives within Amazon, sort of an Ask Me Anything about the story. So if you can imagine, it'll just summarize an entire story for you by asking it to. So I'm still trying to process how to feel about that. Dave was not happy about it at all. He's got books on Amazon. He helps a lot of authors, hundreds of authors. And it just makes you wonder what they were thinking. And there's already a huge uproar coming out of the author community, because it's like, well, if you want to learn more about kind of what we're doing, you can subscribe to our newsletters. Just go to our websites, BrandonKingAuthor.com, TaylorHunterAuthor.com, and sign up for our newsletters. Because at least in mine, I talk with increasing frequency. I just started a couple of months ago, but I'll probably have something in most of my newsletters that only come out monthly, most of the time, about AI and its impact on the author world. Because this thing that Amazon just released without any ability to say yes to it or to say no to it, it will just tell people kind of everything they want to know about the book, which kind of makes you wonder, will people actually go ahead and buy the book, or will they just kind of get their crib notes directly from Amazon and, yeah, I now understand the book, I don't need to buy it? Because that would put a hole in Amazon's revenue. Amazon started with books. For those who they may not know, that was what Amazon originally sold. That's all they sold were books way back in the day. Mm-hmm. So it's just a real head scratcher. So anyway, sorry for the little sidebar there, but those are the kind of things you might hear about in future webinars. Just us talking about, what? Why would they do that?
Yeah.
So I think maybe we've probably sort of already answered this question. Why are we doing this? It's just to give our readers a place to kind of get to know us, learn more about us, and throw questions at us. So I'm just looking over at the chat now. And I guess one of the chatters has said, I guess you can't even see my camera. You can hear my voice, the disembodied voice of Brandon King. Wah, wah, wah. So I'm not sure how to get my camera back on. I guess I'm here. I think I'm here. I can see me. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay.
Well, if I remember correctly, it's a trade between your and the screen.
Yeah, there is supposed to be a way for me to tell my camera where to have my picture. So I'll just kind of figure out where is that on my little toolbar on this webinar app. So at any rate, I was here the whole time. It was me speaking. Believe it or not, it was me. So if we go back to the slide deck and I go to the slide that we were just on, which was, let's see, not the last one. I didn't have that many slides, so it's giving me the option to start on a slide I don't even have. So let's go to number 7, because I think that's where we were. Stuff that matters to us. Characters, story arc. Maybe I did have that many. Q&A. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see Q&A. Can you all see this Q&A slide? All right.
Yep.
So Q&A. If our spouses have a question for us that they want to throw in there, they can do that and do it now. If you have poo, throw it now.
Madagascar.
Yes. See, we just made a reference to a movie that we both love and a line that comes from that movie. If you have poo, throw it now. Because it's with a British accent coming from a monkey.
Oh, wait. Well, I will answer that question in a second, but just wanted to show he's been chilling out with me the entire time. He just got busy again. This is Hunter.
Yes. And fun fact,
he's a good boy.
The cat's name Hunter is completely and totally unrelated to Taylor's last name. Hunter.
That is a fact.
There's just a very, very interesting fluke that the man that she fell in love with had and continues to have a cat named Hunter.
Indeed.
How about that? And you just got the name Hunter. So I guess you could say that's Hunter.
Indeed. Well, to answer the question that was posed in the chat by my husband, what's it like being married?
Yes.
It's great.
That was a good and a safe
it's an adventure.
when you're on camera.
Well, it's true. It's a great adventure every day.
As it should be. That's what marriage is. That's another movie reference. Marriage.
Yes.
And that comes from?
Princess Bride.
Yes. Princess Bride. And then my spouse says, brings us together today. And I might just interject here, if you're coming to Quills of Kin and you're expecting really serious authorly stuff, you might get it, but you're also going to get this.
Yes.
The less than
Lots of it.
serious stuff. What? So my spouse asks, how does it feel when you're in the groove of writing? So I feel like I'm in kind of a special happy place. It's unlike really anything else that I experience in life. So in the very, very, very long periods of time where I'm not writing, it's kind of a struggle, a bit of a painful, I want to get back into that groove. So what about for you, Taylor?
Absolutely the same. Because I know we both experience this, but my brain has a knack for coming up with story ideas for stories that aren't actually mine. It'll be like, a favorite movie or a favorite movie series. And one day I'll wake up and my brain's like, hey, what if this happened? If there was like going to be another one, what if this was the plot? And I'm like, oh, that's great. Oh no, I have another idea. And I feel compelled to write it down. It's like, no, I have a series. I have my own series to focus on. I need you to focus on this. It's like, but I want to write this. It's like, well, no. So that's a struggle. But anytime I'm away from writing anything for a long time, it leaves a little bit of a mark. Just the longer you go without it, it's it kind of feels like it's almost like a muscle, and like when you're not using it, you feel it. And
yeah, that's true. So you'll probably hear us talk about that too. But anyway, I'm aware of the fact we haven't gone too long because we carved out more time than we've used. But I think for our first inaugural Quills of Kin, we've done okay. I didn't use the mic that I practiced on, so I think next time you might see me with a mic somewhere around here. So we'll see how my audio may improve. But so far, I think everything worked. You can hear me okay. But maybe we'll just keep working at trying to get better quality about all this stuff here. We'll do some.
Do you want to drop the slide? Do you want to hide the slide so we can see you again?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. But anyway, next time you might see a microphone right around here. It'll look surprisingly like this. So, yes. So, anyway, we've done the Quills of Kin. I'm just going to go back to the slide deck one more time. So let's go to here and just see where we land if it's 12, because it's 12. There we go. So next time, if we go on the premise that we're meeting every month, and it's the last Saturday, Sunday, what is today? Today's Saturday. Saturday.
Yeah, it's second to last Saturday. It's the fourth Saturday.
It could be the last Saturday. I'll just check my calendar because right now it is the fourth Saturday. So I'll make sure it's the fourth Saturday. which for most months, I think that is the last Saturday. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let's hang on. Trying to get my calendar to show what I want here. Yeah. As soon as it happens, the last Saturday in February is the 28th, which also happens to be the last day in February. So, does that work for you, Taylor?
Right. Yep. Works for me.
Okay. So we'll just plan on that. So if anybody's watching the video, once we get it edited, trimmed, maybe sound amended so that it sounds great, then you'll know this. But our intention is the end of each of our webinars. The intention is to actually say, hey, the next one's going to be on this date. Because based on our schedules, we're thinking we can pull off with some continuity, one a month. And if you want to pose questions to us prior to that, that's fine. And particularly if on our newsletter list, you can just reply to a newsletter and say, hey, I got a question for you. Because we give you the opportunity in our newsletters each time we send those out. Hit reply if you got a question for us. And if we don't respond directly via email, we can certainly do it here during the webinar. Okay? Sound good? Cool. So anything else you want to add, Taylor, before we wrap this one up? Any question, anything you want to say, Taylor? Any commentary or?
I don't think so. Hunter is on the move again.
Okay. So Hunter
but yeah, I hope that, yes, Hunter's on the move. There he is.
There he is.
He has nothing to say.
Okay. And at some point you might see one of our cats because we have 2 cats. They're very elderly, so they nap a lot. Hello, Hunter. Yeah.
There you go, babies.
Okay. Well, thank you for today's webinar. And we hope our plan is to edit this and put it up on Taylor's YouTube channel. And I guess I want to point that way based on the way my camera is set up. Am I pointing at your head now, Taylor, based on what you see on screen? Taylor froze, so I'm not sure. She might be glitching a little bit. At any rate, thanks for joining us today at Quills of Kin.
Yeah.
This is Brandon King and Taylor Hunter, and we're going to sign off for now and wish you a great rest of your day.